Recently, Bookmark stopped by the Catholic Marketing Network and got a chance to catch up with various authors in attendance. We hope you enjoy this interview. And stopping by the Bookmark booth is Thane Belen, author of Help Me, Lord, I Need You. Now, this is a self-published book. What prompted you to put a book together?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I've been fairly involved in the church throughout most of my life, and we were a catechist for 8th graders for about 13 years, and it just I've always been one going to seminars and things to take notes, and I hear people's different stories about different things, and I would take notes because to me they were like sometimes they're like an Emmaus event where somebody will say something and something strikes me about what they said, a lesson to me.
Right.
And I don't know, one night I was awakened by an internal voice that we should write our book together. And
who's we?
We, the Lord.
Oh, and you.
And so if you look at any of my files where I started putting it together, was our book is how I always listed it. But I just felt there were so many lessons that I've learned from others over life that I felt it was something I was inspired to share with others, others could learn as well.
So in what other people said, what impacted you the most in hearing what other people said, and how did that impacted your spiritual life?
Yeah, a lot of people had like these aha moments where the Lord spoke to them, or through prayer, or through a homily, or through something, maybe scripturally. Something spoke to them that caused them to think and act different. And I've always been taken by those kind of
So was that your aha moment?
I've had some of those as well.
So you've had more than one of those?
Yes, yes. So the beginning of the book is a story or two of my own experiences. There's a couple in there from my wife and my mother, my grandfather, and a whole list of friends who've had different experiences that I felt were important enough to share to others. They made a big enough impact on them that hopefully it could help others.
Now, were these like life experiences that had greater meaning or greater meaning brought into them, or were they all spiritually related experiences right up front? How did it play?
Yeah, good question. They varied a lot. Some of them had habits that, they were bad habits. There's a story of a friend who just very unforgiving of people. And through conversation, all at once, some things kind of came together. There's another one about somebody who had an issue with pornography. There's a couple of them in there with people who have lost a spouse or a loved one, and how did they get through that? And those stories really said a lot to me. They were tremendous lessons that they learned, and I thought, wow, that was powerful. So that spoke to me a great deal, and I just felt called to share that.
So in dealing with that, like you talk about, help me, Lord, I need you, and then somebody says, well, that's great, I'm happy it worked out for you. It didn't work out so well in my life.
Yeah, well, I think there's always that risk, quite honestly. But I think, too, my experience in talking to a lot of people who are searching for solutions, they're open to somebody else's story. How did it help you? And I think people who are really in need are listening. They're looking. And, I mean, really, where this book leads you is hopefully, I've had a number of people say, chapter 13 spoke to me. You were writing about me when you wrote chapter 13. I had people point out different chapters in the book that
So
really,
not specifically just chapter 13, always the one.
Right.
But different ones that they connected to.
Yes. And then, the tail end of the book, my goal there is to help people lead into a deeper, more spiritual life with different things, through the sacraments, through prayer, through Mass, through so on. And so I tend to take that further after some of those stories.
What chapter were you most surprised that somebody would have gotten something that much out of?
I would say probably chapter 12. 12 was a story about someone. It was actually a story about my wife. We lost a child when she was 2.5.
Oh, wow.
And she withdrew. And she didn't want anybody, if you weren't husband or mom or dad or whatever, then she didn't want to talk to you.
Right.
And one day somebody got through. It was a nun who got through the code, if you will, and it was a turning point for her.
Right. Right.
That was probably, and there's others who have said some similar things.
Right.
That they too had withdrawn, but that story spoke to them. They needed to spread their wings again.
So what's been the reaction to the book, besides people picking out individual chapters?
Overall, good. Anybody who's read it, the first part of the book tells the story of my experience in losing that child. And
was it different for you and your wife?
Yes, it was. The stories are different because we came at it from a different perspective. We grew through it together, thankfully. Right. While she was still alive, prayed for her to recover. Yeah. But then I said, "Your will, Lord." Right. And His will was to bring her home. Right. And that was harder than I expected it to be. Right. And that story seems to get people into the book. Right. So
absolutely, that's a powerful story. Thane Belen. Help me, Lord, I need you. And good luck. Hope you have a good show. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much, Doug.
To get a copy of the materials mentioned on this episode of EWTN Bookmark, log on to our web store, EWTNRC.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or call 1-800-854-6316.